This latest email that we've seen, it was sent to Dr. Anthony Fauci, who everybody knows as the lead advisor to the past two presidents on the pandemic. This email actually hints way back in February last year that this virus could have been engineered.
These are the most extraordinary emails to emerge because we knew that Anthony Fauci knows more about gain-of-function research, and to remind everyone, because this is a relatively new term for viewers and everyone around the world, really, but gain-of-function research takes place in laboratories where existing viruses often are either combined through, a recombination event or mutations or some form of genetic manipulation to create often they create even more deadly and infectious viruses. The point is to see whether they can be infectious to humans. So the idea behind it from these scientists is that they want to preempt a pandemic by seeing which viruses can infect humans by making them able to infect humans. And in the process, they create these new deadly viruses that never existed in nature before. Anthony Fauci is considered by some to be the godfather of this research. He has long defended it. As part of my investigation for the book I've written, What Really Happened in Wuhan, I did a deep dive into gain-of-function and I uncovered a 2012 scientific paper he wrote. It was published in a medical journal where he said that the benefits of this research were worth the risk of a pandemic. It is an extraordinary acknowledgement. It is incomprehensible for a public health official charged with protecting public health to take this position, but that's what he has done. Then these emails show that in the very early stages of the pandemic, in early 2020, he became concerned that the funding for gain-of-function research in the US had flown to Wuhan. And we see there's a flurry of emails where he's trying to find out whether he could be responsible or whether the NIH could be responsible for funding the research that might have created the virus that has leaked. And Chris, this is a real possibility. This is why we've seen such a cover-up from people like Anthony Fauci. And, I always point out, we don't know for sure whether this is a natural virus that made the natural jump from animal to human, or whether it's a laboratory leak. Both options are on the table. If it was a laboratory leak, then you're looking at a situation where American funding under Anthony Fauci funded a virus that might have leaked that has resulted in this global pandemic. It is a scandal.
It's extraordinary. As you say, American research directly involved in this gain-of-function research, which is tampering with viruses. But also in that email that we just saw, we might be able to get it back up again. It comes from a scientist, Christian Anderson. It goes to Dr. Anthony Fauci. It says that there are some features of the virus that look engineered. It also goes on to say that there are features of the virus that are inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory. In other words, it looks like this vaccine could have been tampered with in the lab. Now, that scientist apparently later on decided that that was not the case, that it was natural. But it proves that this idea of a laboratory tampered vaccine was in play at the most senior levels in the US way back in February last year.
And yet we were never told about this. The American public were never told about this. The Australians, Europeans, everyone around the world, we were not told. All we heard from the scientific community, from the likes of Anthony Fauci, was that this is definitely a naturally occurring virus. I mean, you heard the words from Anthony Fauci at the time. There was no wriggle room. This was not a lab leak. It was a natural virus, when in fact, behind the scenes, scientists had admitted that there were unusual features about SARS-CoV-2. Those unusual features, other scientists noticed as well. They then had their research blocked from scientific journals. It took a very long time. It wasn't until Nikolai Petrovsky, who you have on your show all the time, until he did that interview with me on Sky News in May last year. And it was a bombshell interview because it was the first time any mainstream credible scientist, and he's from Flinders University in Adelaide in Australia, where he said this virus could be man-made. In fact, scientists knew that was a possibility. Anthony Fauci knew that was a possibility at the very start of the pandemic, and no one was told. Chris,
in fact, it was denied.
It was denied.
It's extraordinary. Now, there's a couple of things I'll just get you to finish on here,
Yes.
Sharri, because one point, of course, we all need to know the origins of the virus in order to protect ourselves in the future, prevent it happening again, and all of that. But there's three other aspects here as to why it's so important that this information was kept from everybody. One, we all understand the politics. We all understand that America might not have wanted to insult China, to inflame tensions with China without absolute proof. Secondly, there's the domestic politics. A lot of people didn't want to accept this might be true because they thought it might help Donald Trump's re-election chances, that it suited his narrative. So they wanted to deny it to hurt Trump politically. But then thirdly, as you've revealed today, they wanted to cover up the fact that American researchers were actually involved in all of this.
Look, I think for the main part, the reason most virologists didn't speak out and most journalists didn't speak out were the second two reasons you outlined. It was seen as supporting Trump to say that this might be the case. And secondly, the other key reason is that virologists and the scientific community were worried that if this does turn out to be a lab leak, what does it mean for their own research? You know, that there would inevitably be tighter regulations and perhaps a permanent ban on gain-of-function research, you know, which there was temporarily for 3 years, kicking off in the Obama administration. But you know, to the American leadership, Fauci was very quiet about this. I've spoken to virtually every top national security official in my book, On the Record, and he did not mention gain-of-function research to any of them. He didn't mention that this was a possibility. So behind the scenes, we can see that he's worried about it. He's engaging in these emails, but he didn't tell anyone about it. They didn't even know the American ban had been lifted. It wasn't something that he raised with them. I mean, one official said to me on the record that he was in every single meeting with Anthony Fauci, so senior was he, and Anthony Fauci never once mentioned gain of function.